Well, if you're anything like me, you just can't get enough Hillary Clinton. Thankfully, Apple TV is here to scratch your itch for the Wicked Witch. The People's Pantsuit releasing a new streaming series called Gutsy, where she lifts up her shirt and goes, "Ooh!" I wish that would be amazing. There's already a show called How to Get Away with Murder, so they couldn't call it that. This thing celebrates the life and courage of America's worst lady.
You have a marriage that has been on public display since the beginning. You said the gutsiest thing you ever did was stay in your marriage. That doesn't mean that's right for everybody.
There's also some forced attempts at levity, like this clip, where she loses a legal quiz to Kim Kardashian. Brilliant.
Under what circumstances may one use deadly force to defend themselves?
Yes.
When one is being faced with deadly force themselves, or one believes that deadly force is imminent.
Was it humbling to lose that contest to her secretary?
Oh, it was heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. But
I think it's also she just needs to work on her reaction time, Sandra. It was like sometimes I could see my mom knew what the answer was, but she wouldn't hit the buzzer in time.
well, I was also really intrigued by how well she did.
Oh, yeah! No, you're adult. Chelsea's codependent. It's gross. Is she having a terrible show contest with Meghan Markle? Party panel here to discuss. Conservative strategist, Z-Lab's vice president of PR and human events contributor. It is Chris Barron. Look at that hockey stick. Yeah. Democrat strategist and former Biden campaign surrogate. He's our Halston, Kevin Walling. That's right. And he is the host of the Part of the Problem podcast, The Future of This Country Personified. Dave Smith. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you.
Hey, Kennedy.
Hello.
Hi. So what does this say to you? I mean, this is just a god-awful collection of nonsense. What does it say about her political aspirations, Chris?
The first thing I thought when I saw this is the only logical conclusion you can draw from this is that she's thinking about running for president again. It's like Christmas in August. Like, legitimately, why do you do this if you're her? Why do you dig up the corpse of your marriage with Bill Clinton and do that? Because she wants to seem more relatable to the new woke generation of young women. Oh, it's not the, not the right decision for everyone. Why does she have Kim Kardashian on to lose? Like, all of this is just a pathetic attempt to seem more current, more acceptable, as she hopes once again to run for president, and maybe we'll like her better this time. Like, legitimately, I've said it before, I'll say it again, nothing makes me as excited as Hillary Clinton running for president. I'll write a check to her. I so want this to happen.
So, Kevin, this is, it's so gutsy. How soon will we get sick of the word gutsy? It's just gutsy. Look at that.
It's a good question. Listen, I don't think there's a bottom to what Bill and Hillary and Chelsea Clinton will do to stay relevant and stay in the public eye. Gross. I watched the trailer. It seemed somewhat heartwarming to see a little road trip with the two of them. And we'll let the ratings decide. I actually really enjoyed the Hulu documentary about Secretary Clinton from a few years ago. She laid into Bernie Sanders and others, and it was fairly revealing. So we'll see if people tune in. But, she's got a story to tell, and she likes uplifting the story of women.
She sure does. Because there's a special place in hell for women who don't vote for Hillary Clinton. Really uplifting. So, Kevin, who hurt you? And are you being held hostage? And are you being forced to say these things against your will? Because I know you're smart and you have good taste, and you would never be like, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. Please don't shoot me.
Do you know how stupid it is as a Democrat to cross the Clintons? I'm looking for a newspaper to hold up just as a proof of life that I'm here at Fox.
I know.
So I'm never going to do that.
Thank you. That leads me to my next question for Dave Smith. Dave, did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself?
Oh, of course, Kennedy. Who could ever ask any questions about that obvious case? There's every now and then there's a few camera misfunctions, you know what I mean? And a guy who clearly was working by himself, who happened to have a Saudi passport. Okay, anyway, listen, I'm genuinely angry at you, Kennedy, for making me watch this trailer. It is so painful to get through. They go, oh, candid conversations is how they advertise it. So, yeah, so candid. It was, I think it's kind of crazy in the post kind of Me Too movement and all of this, that it's even like we're still playing these 90s games where the thing is that Bill Clinton cheated.
Like, feel however you feel about cheating. That's wrong. I mean, I think it's no one else's business, really, if she wants to take him back or not. It's not that he cheated. Monica Lewinsky was, what, 20?
Yeah,
21?
She was in her early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I think 21, maybe 22 at the absolute oldest. And he was the president of the United States, and she was an unpaid intern. I mean, by the way, how about the multiple accusations of rape and sexual assault? The question isn't, was your husband unfaithful? The question is, like, your husband seems to be, by every modern sense of the definition, a predator. And you're okay with that.
Yeah.
That's what a candid conversation might look like. And so it's amazing that they can still even get away with this framing.
Yeah, and I love how they're spinning it. Like, you are so incredibly brave that your political ambitions were more important to you than your decency and common sense. Good job.
Right.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I was thinking about that just the other day. Like, Monica Lewinsky was vilified by the press. And people blamed her as though she was the one who bore more of the responsibility in the relationship, the predatory relationship, where, you know, it's so gross and it really doesn't age well. Well, speaking of terrible people, today marks 6 months since Vladimir Putin launched his invasion into Ukraine. It also happens to be Ukraine's Independence Day. President Biden is commemorating it by sending them another $3 billion in aid to prolong a war so more Ukrainians die. In a statement, Biden said this package is going to help Ukrainians fight for years to come. Years? That's what we're looking for? Another long-ass war with no terminus? Congress has already approved $54 billion to Ukraine. In total, we've sent them more than $13.6 billion in military aid since Biden took office. So how deep does the money pit go, Chris?
As apparently as deep as the establishment and the Democratic Party wants it to go. Like, isn't there some point at which we ask, what is the United States national interest in being involved in a proxy war with a nuclear power in Ukraine? Isn't there at some point we say, like, God, we have a lot of problems facing this country, real problems. We have unemployment, homelessness, people who are hungry. Everybody's concerned about all the illegal immigrants across the world, all this stuff. Like, isn't there any way we could spend that money better anyway, rather than writing blank checks to Ukraine? Like, I mean, to me, it is absolutely appalling that any idea that you question this immediately gets called out as, oh, you're just a stooge for the Russians.
Yeah,
and Putin.
you're pro-Putin,
Like,
Chris. I get it. Yeah, no, you're a Russian asset.
Exactly. That is exactly the level of discourse we're seeing from the other side. When I'm saying, like, at what point, how many billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars do we have to spend in a proxy war thousands of miles away before we say, hey, what's it for?
Yes. What is it for, Kevin? Because it seems as though, especially moderate Democrats, have become the new hawks. And Republicans like Chris Barron and Pete Hegseth, they're the ones trying to pump the brakes on another war that will be interminable.
Well, Kenny, I'm still encouraged that the vast majority of Republicans, especially in Congress, and Democrats are united in our support of Ukraine 6 months into this unprecedented attack by Russia. The fact that so many billions of dollars had flowed in, and to your point, Kennedy, now the weapon systems are for long-range, long-term investments, because I think Putin's game plan all along is to run out the clock. The idea that Americans will grow tired of this, that Europeans will grow tired of this, and the fact that there's still Russian troops in Ukraine is a serious problem. So we're equipping them with the resources necessary to take back their country. We're not losing American lives as part of this, and we are supporting an underdog against a huge aggressor in that region. And again, you only need to study World War II, the history of this world, to see what happens when we give in to dictators that just freely take over the land of smaller countries in this world.
Or you can look at the Vietnam War or what happened in Afghanistan and see that this entire thing is a fool's errand. And, you know, sure, you can stand with Ukraine, Dave, without wishing them imminent death, which is what we're doing by propping them up just long enough to continue fighting this for years and years so more people in Ukraine are displaced and they die. So our Secretary of State has no problem calling his counterpart to talk about Brittany Griner, but he won't talk about Ukraine.
Yeah. No, I mean, right. Like, to your point, look, I root for freedom and peace all throughout the world for everybody. That's I hope that's what ends up happening. But I think that, you know, and you have regularly on this show, who I think is the best guy in the country on this and all foreign policy issues, is Scott Horton, and he's laid out the case many times that it's very clear that the goal here is to prolong the conflict,
yes,
to give Russia their own Afghanistan, as Zbigniew Brzezinski bragged about in his memoir, giving Russia their own Vietnam in Afghanistan back then in 1979. And so that's the plan here, to draw out the war. And I got to say, even as somebody who, you know, I talk more than anyone else about how evil and corrupt and criminal the government is, I'm blown away by the insane recklessness of this policy. That you would think, I would think the elites even would be concerned about nuclear war. I mean, obviously they don't lose anything when there's a war in Iraq. They just all get rich, and other people's poor kids go die, and 1 million Iraqis get killed.
Yeah.
That's not their concern. But nuclear war is a threat to them too. The idea that the #1 goal here wouldn't be to absolutely make sure that there's not a conflict between Russia and the United States, the two countries that have 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. It's really something to watch, to just keep sending weapons in. Look, the amount of propaganda that's put into this, Vladimir Putin's a bad guy. I do not like him. I do not like his government. But the idea that it is such a huge given that Ukraine must be ruled by Kiev and not Moscow, like that's so, as if Ukraine is some beacon of democracy and freedom. They're a one-party state that has banned the opposition party. No, of course not. But that's the point. It's right. It's two kind of authoritarian governments having a border dispute war that we've gotten involved in and provoked.
So we've allocated $54 billion, and Germany's like, we sent over 500 million. It's like, eat rocks.
The Europeans need to do way more, Kennedy.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. And we need to do way less.
Or maybe we should all do way less.
Yes.
Maybe we should all do way less and just try to negotiate a peace and not be insane about it.
I would love to negotiate
maybe that's
peace. I think that would be great. I think peace brings prosperity. But, you know, drones are so fun. Why wouldn't we? Party panel, thanks so much. Chris, Kevin, Dave, yes. And by the way, Scott Horton likes you too. You should call him.